Hey everyone, this is Kim Beegler, owner of Ewethful Fiber Farm and Mill, and I am here at the wool mill getting ready to talk about, well, we're starting off at the picker here, and I've got some Romney wool, some alpaca in different colors, and some silk. So I'm going to blend this all together in my picker, and we're gonna start running from there with our wool talk. And I'm not sure what else is in this episode yet, so I can always try to plan and then the week will go crazy, but I'll share as much with you as I can. And I would like to start these days by saying Ewethful is an inclusive community, meaning that all sexes, all gender identities, all skin colors, all people are wonderful, equal, and we are all welcome here and safe. So if that is where you are at, thank you and welcome. And I'm going to talk a lot about wool and hand spinning and yarn and all of the things that make so many pretty things, as I say at the end of every episode. So let's get started with the picker. Before I forget, I should mention, which I always forget, that I do have a Ewethful Patreon community. I do not monetize this channel here on YouTube, so I don't make any money off of it. And so the Patreon community is a way to meet other fiber people. We do social Zooms. You get first dibs on buying fibers from the mill, and it just supports the time I put into these episodes. And you can also join my newsletter, and all of these things there's links in the show notes, so check it out. Okay, so let's get started with this. So I call this is one of the original blends I used to do when I spun yarn, which I used to spin yarn in the mill. I no longer do. I hand spin my own yarn. And then I'm just gonna make sure that you guys are able to see. I think I'm gonna take me out of the picture a little bit here, because we don't need to see me. So I don't spin anymore. I specialize in fibers for hand spinners because that is my main people. That's my main people. That's my main me too, honestly. So I used to spin this into yarn, and it was called the Halsey yarn. It was the first blend that I came up with, and I called it Halsey, which is the town in Oregon where the wool mill is located. So this alpaca is a little bit dense. It's pretty fine alpaca, so it kind of stuck together a little bit during washing in some parts. So I'm just helping the picker because that's really tight. I don't expect the picker to do the perfect job with that. So I laid a little bit of silk on the conveyor belt. I've laid some alpaca, and then on top of that I am laying out some Romney wool, and I've got natural gray and natural white Romney. The alpaca is natural black and like a light fawn, and the silk is a natural colored, kind of a taupey color. So I'm going to turn the machine on and get it rolling. So I'll just go through and kind of keep doing these layers. And the reason I layer it here at the mill is just because then the fiber is going into these two intake rollers, and I like to have the fiber that's a little bit tougher be on top because it just seems to go through the machine better. Less of the finer stuff gets caught up along the way. So, and because this Romney is pretty tough stuff, I can put a fair amount of it on there, which is nice. And I've already weighed out, like I know the percentages I want for this fiber blend, how much Romney, how much silk, etc. So I've already weighed that out in advance, and I've just got it sitting in baskets, and I'll go from there. Beyond that, I do not aim for perfection as far as blending. So it can just roll how it rolls through the machine, and then it goes into the carder, and it gets blended up more in the carder. So it's just blended along the way. It's not going to be 100, that's why a lot of my fibers are not going to be necessarily 100% consistent if they're dyed or even if they're natural, just depending on the fleece or what I'm blending. So I'll go through and I'm going to move you over to the other side. This is the very end of this batch. And so I'm going to move you over to the other side so you can see it coming out. I haven't done this blend in a little bit, and it's always so fun. It's kind of a pill to pick out or to get it set up and to get it blended, just because it takes 5 seconds longer, but it's so pretty. So let's go over to the other side. I'm going to try not to, here it is going in. I'm going to try not to trip over things. We'll watch it coming out here. So it's just shooting out, just air is forcing it into this little shower that contains everything from going all over the place. So I'm gonna finish up the tiniest little bit of this, and then I'll let you see what it looks like all blended up. Okay, so the machine has stopped. Everything's kind of stopped moving so much. I have this brush here. It's really fancy to keep the doors a little bit tighter, because otherwise my ceiling will be covered in fiber, especially when I'm doing silk and alpaca. And it never fails that I will wear black to the mill when I decide that I'm gonna pick this out. I even knew, I had discussed this to myself in my head the last day I was here, that I was gonna do this blend because it's been a while, but alas, I still wore black pants. I'm gonna go in a little bit just so you can kind of see. Let me take you off. You can see the layers that build up as it's coming through. So this is gonna be a really fun spin because it's just kind of gonna run through different colors and be gorgeous. This is always a fun part when we pull it out. This is where I get covered if I'm not already covered. So I will pull this out and I just kind of pull from all levels so that I'm just still continuing to blend, right? I'll put it in a couple bins and then we'll go ahead and condition it. I say it basically every episode, but I do have a recipe for conditioning on my website, or not on my website, on my blog site, beingewethful.com. There is a link in the show notes. I have a mentioned in this episode section in the show notes, and there is a link straight to it. And I condition, here it is all blended up. Isn't that gorgeous? It's gonna be so pretty to spin, and it's so fun. The combination of the Romney, the alpaca, and the silk makes for such a gorgeous, lovely yarn. And you could spin this and leave it natural. It's gonna be all kind of just tweedy effect, or you could dye it up and it's gonna have a really fun effect because of that tweed. So I'm gonna condition this. Onward to the carder we will go. Okay, I can't record much of this, but I wanted to show you, this is a Romeldale fleece that I cold soaked overnight, and I actually was like, should I even bother with this? It's really not that dirty on the tips, and I'm going to show you that actually only was in very small portions, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And I hope you can see how different the coloring is. It's hard to tell with the light, but this is really yellow, and the wool is basically white, just from a cold soak. So it helps. It helps everybody. That's all I'm trying to say. So sometimes if you're like, should I? Maybe you should. All right, we're at the mill. I thought you might want to see this Romeldale getting washed up. A little change. I just needed a little change from all that Shetland that we've been doing. And I'm gonna admit something here that I'm sure lots of you can relate to, but I was in the shop, which is one of the spots where I keep raw wool in my husband's shop, which I should not be taking up so much space in. And I looked underneath one of his benches, and I was like, what is that tub? Is that actually wool? So I opened it, and yeah, it was 2 really beautiful Romeldale fleeces that I think I got at Oregon Flock and Fiber last year, which, by the way, Oregon Flock and Fiber is in a month. So it's these 2 beautiful Romeldale fleeces. This is just one of them. And for those of you that are listening and not watching this is a really lovely white Romeldale fleece. I'm going to hold up a little squidge of it here so you can see, hopefully you can see that just gorgeous tiny, tiny crimp that is in there. So Romeldale, if you've been watching for a while, you know it's one of my faves. I think it's like the other merino to me, except better, dare I say. I'm sorry if you're a merino breeder. I love merino. I do. But Romeldale is just not many people know about it. You'll see it as Romeldale CVM. The CVM generally is when it is colored, and it'll be Romeldale when it is the natural white. So, as always, because this is a finer wool fleece, I am spending a little more time opening up the locks as I go in, just so that I can make sure that soap and water get through, because the finer wools tend to be denser fleeces. I'm just trying to make the washing process faster, basically, right? Because the goal here is to get the lanolin out of the wool. And the best way to do that is to make sure that soap and water can get through the wool to pull the lanolin off, and to have really hot water so it melts. So that's really all. I don't know if I have too much else to say, other than if you have not spun Romeldale CVM, I would try to get my hands on some, because it may be a game changer if you are not into fine wools a ton, or if maybe you have only spun like a merino as a fine wool. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and finish opening this up and then wash away, and we will get to some carding. I think that's the plan anyway. Get to some carding. All right, you all, my buzzer is beeping. So that means it's time to push some wool down. I wanted you to get a glimpse in here. Oh, we're looking good. I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm just coming in. I've got the washer open for those of you listening. I'm doing a little, just kind of gently moving stuff around in the scouring tub. Don't be afraid of your wool. Obviously, the finer wools you need to be a little more gentle with, but this is a finer wool, and I'm still doing a little shuffling. Not a ton of agitation involved, just a little flip and making sure all the wool is pushed down, and then we go ahead and close her back up, because we don't want to lose too much heat while I'm doing that. Moving on. All right, we are at the carder, and before we take a break from Shetland, we've got one more Shetland fleece. Well, we've got a lot of Shetland fleeces, but today I wanted to run this Shetland fleece first through in an effort to keep moving along and getting kits together for the upcoming spin to knit along. We've been talking about it over in my Patreon group, coming up with colors, talking about comfort zones and all sorts of different like project sizes, because this will be spinning very small amounts if you buy the kit, especially spinning small amounts, which a lot of us tend to at least be spinning 4 ounces at a time, right? So anyway, it's been really interesting. We just had a Zoom this past Saturday. That was one of our social Zooms, which there's different levels. And if you're in the Cooney and Shetland levels, this is one of the perks, is that we have, among other things, a monthly social meetup. And it was so much fun. There were a good amount of us there. I think there were like 10 or 12 of us there. And we just had really good conversations about it. Just like we were on for, I think, an hour and a half, just because everybody's sharing what they're working on. And then we would go down rabbit holes of other things. And so it was really fun. So if you're interested in finding a great Fiverr community, go to the Ewethful Patreon community, and you can support what I do here, because I don't monetize the channel. As I think I've mentioned, I'm trying to get better about mentioning that. Anyway, I don't even remember why I started this, but we have been talking about this spin along. They actually know the pattern and everything. So they're pumped. And my Patreon community will get first dibs at kits, although I'm hoping that there will be enough. Look at this. Oh, the bane of my existence. Blackberry thorns. I have been stabbed so many times, because right before shearing, this past shearing, the boys got into the raspberry bushes, and they had just like on the sides, and I was like yanking them off, which means sometimes little bits of them end up in their wool, and I will get stabbed many times. So is this on? No. Okay, let me turn this on and we'll get this rolling. And the next thing up on the carder is the Romney alpaca silk, which, I mean, it's all exciting. Don't get me wrong. It's just nice for me as the processor to take a break. When I'm processing the same thing over and over again, it feels like, even though all these fleeces are different and I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm excited to show you, I did dye up the first batch for the spin to knit along, so I'm excited. Okay, this is just starting up, So we'll go over to the other side and wait for some of it to start dropping off here. Here it starts to come. I believe this is David Rose's spring fleece. And we just shore, or sorry, it would have been his November of last year fleece. So his fall fleece, because some of my Shetlands I shear once a year, some twice. So I'm just pulling some of that off. This what has already dropped, I'll toss back into the bucket for carting. And because of course we want to save as much as we can, especially with these Shetland fleeces that are tiny. Some of them, this one's probably 2.5 to 3 pounds. That is not always the case, especially if the fleece was just a little bit rougher. But Shetland fleeces, if you get almost a full year out of a full year fleece, you're probably going to end up around the 3 to 4 pounds max. 4 pounds probably is the max. I've had some times where my fleeces are 2 pounds. By the time it's skirted and washed and all of that. That's probably actually pretty appropriate, is 2 pounds for a Shetland fleece once it's washed and skirted and all that stuff. So I just attached my hook through here, and I'm going to go ahead and attach the fiber into that hook, and then we'll get the machine going and see how this looks. I didn't do my best job of threading this, so we're gonna see how it goes. I'm hoping, yes, that this will come through. Woo! All right, let's get her back on track there. There we go. Did not do a great job of threading there, but we made it. And there it comes, looking good. I'm gonna grab a bin before we walk away to look at the other side again. I'll give it just a little bit there. We'll take this back. Toss it in, and now we've got to run back to the other side and get more on the carder, and then we'll take a peek inside, and I've got to get a little more weight out, so excuse me for just a minute. I wasn't as prepared as usual. Okay. Gotta hustle to keep up with the machine sometimes. Not really. Usually I'm waiting on it because I could use a longer intake feed here, belt. They actually make them longer now. Belfast does, the manufacturer of this equipment. And I always forget, like, oh, maybe it's time to make this a little bit longer. It would just give me a little more time to walk away and do a few other things, but also, do I really need to rush around that much? So I'm just getting this as even as I can out on the intake belt here. Opening it up a little more. And then we'll go take a peek and see what it looks like going through the machine. I'm just taking a peek down. You can see from here, I've got a mirror up on the wall to the left of that exit sign, and that's so I can peek around the machine while it's running and make sure that everything's going correctly. All right, here's our peek inside. And now let's go. Actually, I could keep you, trying to get you all dizzy here. Let's head back over. And there we are. Let me turn a light on so you can see a little bit better. It's about 54% humidity in here. So good. But I had 60% on Saturday when I was in. That made me really happy. All right. There's our fiber. Looking beautiful. Okay, next up will be the Romney alpaca silk. All right, here we are back at the washer, and this is the middle. So this has gone through a whole cycle, and now I am going to wash it again. And so I hear from a lot of people that are washing wool for, you know, just kind of getting into it, and they're saying that they're having a hard time getting the lanolin out. And yes, that can be very much an issue. So I wash my fleeces. They go through the wash cycle twice, most often in my machines. So it is quite common. And, you know, the finer your wool is, likely the more lanolin there is, and likely it will be a little more difficult to clean. So just, you know, I always say start with like a Romney or a Shetland or a Jacob fleece, something like that, that is a lower lanolin fleece, so you can have a positive first time. And it will likely still take you 2 washes at home to get one of those, to get the lanolin out of one of those. So don't be too hard on yourself. And what I'm doing, and you can do this at home too, as long as you don't want stuff to stay in lock formation, is in between washes, I am opening the fleece up again. And this is especially important, or helpful, I should say, when you're doing fine wools, because like I mentioned when we first started, the wool is so much more compacted together in just the lock structure of how fine wools tend to grow, that getting in between those, that tight structure is important to making for an easier wash. So this, of course, like I said, does not work if you're going to want to, if you're gonna want to have stuff in lock structure. Say you're gonna comb. That doesn't mean you can't do this in comb, but you know, this is making for a very disorganized fleece once we're done. So that may not make things easier for you, depending on how you want to process. Or, you know, maybe you're just washing wool to use it for locks for dolls or something like that. So, but you see, I'm just going back in and reopening everything up again. And I'm not as gentle as you might think you have to be. It survives it. You know, fine wools, you have to worry a little bit more about felting, but I haven't really had a Romeldale fleece felt up on me yet. So this fleece is looking good, especially considering it sat for at least a year and I had no idea it was there. But it was in a tub that kept it safe from rodents, from moths, that sort of thing. So I'm going to hold up just a little bit more so you can see what this wool is looking like now. Really pretty. And I'm really happy with how open this fleece is. I think it's going to card up really well in my machine. So I'm going to finish this up, let it run another wash cycle, and then it will be done. And meanwhile, we're going to go back over to the carder and do that Romney alpaca silk. This is kind of how a day at the mill works, where you're just back and forth all day between different machines and trying to multitask where you can, where you know you won't mess up if you kind of get off track. Okay, see you on the other side of this. Just a little morning munchies for you all. It's Alexis closest to me here, the smaller white one. You can see how different the size is. On the left is the East Frisian BFLs, and on the right is the Shetlands. Actually, sorry, there is an East Frisian behind the Shetland. You can see how tall she is. If I go down, here you go, then you can really see the height difference on them, much less the build. Go down and see who else wants to say hi. We've got Andy here, king of the throne. There's Drilla, always a hot mess. Oats, the sweetest man. I just processed, actually, I'm getting ready to dye some of his fiber. Hi, Drilla. Here's Patrick. Taraji, you big ham. All right. Onward we shall go. All right, let's take a peek. Oop! I got stuff falling. Having some microphone challenges, so we're doing some testing because I have an interview to do with Amy on Thursday. Thursday? Yes, and I don't want my microphone to mess up on us. So anyway, okay, here is our Romeldale. You might be able to hear the carder in the background. I have it running so it kind of self-cleans itself the rest of the way. But here is the Romeldale, and it's really beautiful. Like, it's separating out really well. So when I look at a fleece before it's washed, when it's raw, especially fine wool fleeces, I am looking to see that it is going to have good separation. And by that, I mean, like, when I pull it apart, it's not like I'm not getting any visible neps. It's not getting caught up on each other. Like, it's separating really well. And I know that's what my machine likes, so that it doesn't get a lot of pilling. I know that's what, and this is doing a great job. I'm happy with this. You can see even when it sort of starts to catch on itself a little bit, it pulls out without getting any pills or anything. So that is great. That's what I want to see. And then I was going to show you some of this fiber. And this is the first of the dyed fiber, and there is some VM in there, but don't worry, we'll get most of that out. This is the first of the dyed fiber for the spin along. So this is Shetland, this is Alexis, one of our girls, and I think she might be in this video. I might point her out because I did a little quick video with the sheep this morning. So this will all get blended up, and it will be one of the first colors to make its way into the kits. There will be lots of natural colors for the spin along kits, and the next color I'm going to dye up is like a gold, which will of course look lovely with this, and it's probably showing up. It's showing up pretty good. It's kind of a blue green color, a tealy color. Always I know what colors go quickly, so those are the ones I'm gravitating towards that will look good together also. So there you go. Okay, I've got the carder getting cleaned out basically. What I do is after I give the carder a little clean between batches, I let it run for a couple minutes just to get off any extra fibers. And so that's what I've been letting it do in the background here. There's a tiny bit on the ground, but not too much. So we're gonna get going on carding up what you can see in the very background there, that the holsey. Okay, we're at the carder, we've got the holsey, and we are ready to roll. I actually am gonna turn the speed down just a little bit because I have found that it just processes this fiber blend best when it's turned down. The speed of the carder is what I'm talking about. It just processes best. So I'm just getting the carder lined up so we can turn it on, and then we'll see what this lovely blend turns into. And the alpaca in this is just stunning. So let me get a little bit more on here, and then we'll turn her on and get some roving out of this. I'm very excited about the top I'm wearing. This is new to me. I found it at a thrift store and I love it. It's like a vintage Rochelle pattern, very fancy. And it's actually got like wood beads on the top. And it's in really good condition considering I think Rochelle was a brand that was out like in the 80s. I'm gonna go with, given the look of it, but I'm loving it. Just loving it. Very exciting to wear it today. It is not 100% cotton though, or linen. So I can only wear it when the temperature is being kind because I will have some issues. Okay, let me turn the speed of the machine down just a little bit. Of course, I can't see very well. Okay, I think we're good. We're on. Let's get her started. And I'm just gonna get this a little bit more even before we go over the style. It'll take a minute or so here for the fiber to start to get through the machine. And I wasn't all the way back at the blue line, so I'm gonna pull some of this back so that it's a little more even, because the more even it is on here, the more even it will be. Let's pop in and we'll see what it looks like inside the machine as it's getting started up. right, let's go down to the other end and see if it's starting to come off yet. Yes, we are starting to get fiber coming off pretty quick actually, so I'm going to stop and try to grab a chunk of that. I think I got enough. We'll pull off what's on the ground there and do as I do, take our fancy, you can see, maybe you can see, this has the tiniest little hook on it. This, and the last time I did not, if you'll remember, I did not do a great job of threading. So I'm gonna actually, I don't know what was going on with that I didn't thread myself well, but so I'm just gonna close this up, join in that fiber onto the hook, and I am pretty sure that we have got enough that we'll get some roving going. And we'll see, it's been a while since we've been doing a lot of white or really light. So this is nice. And I can go back to gray again after this because the alpaca falls out of the machine. Like I don't worry about the buildup of that alpaca color. And so going back to a light gray will be pretty easy. Okay, sorry you all, that was probably boring. Let's go ahead, at least I was talking, right? Let's do this. Here we come, and it's joining up good. So there is that. Of course, I do not have a light on, so let me flip a light on for you. And of course, this is not gonna make for, ooh, that's fun. See, it's just kind of gonna blend out however it blends out. It's gonna be really fun to spin. Ooh. Gonna have a really nice tweedy effect to it, and this actually came off pretty thick, so I'm just gonna toss it in nice and fluffy. This fiber has been conditioned so I don't get and I've got 57% humidity in here, so hurrah for that. So it's gonna kind of get lighter, darker, just depending on where the colors were. Let's head back over and we'll take one last look as it's going into the carder. And I think I'm gonna do a little update, shop update, that my Patreon subscribers get first dibs at that. And then I try to get stuff up on the newsletter, but hopefully we'll get a small shop update done this weekend. All right, everybody, I think that's it for this bit. Let's go maybe try to spin a little bit and say our goodbyes for the week, shall we? I'll let you go out in that. Never gets old watching that, does it? All right, phew, it is time to do some spinning. And I actually have shoes on. I'm just lucky to be here at this point, but I look like a mess, which you'll see in a minute. But I'm here, I am showing up, and I am finishing this episode because I appreciate you all. So I am at my, I'm dropping fiber into dirt, of course. I am at my Magicraft Susie, essentially. And I have got this Romney alpaca silk. I put it on kind of my middle whirl, middle drive band. Woo, I almost lost it. Happens to all of us. We'll see if that stays on. So kind of a middle, nope. See you all, happens to all of us. But I'm outside, so I can just chuck it and the birds will maybe find it. We have got fiber all over this farm. From the sheep losing it, from me skirting, cold washing, all that stuff. And it shows up in our nests for sure, in all of our wild bird nests. So let's go ahead and try that again, because I definitely am a decent hand spinner, right? Okay, bigger chunk there. So middle size on my whirl. I'm gonna spin it short. My gosh, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna try not to edit this and just leave this in here. So what we're gonna do, it's been a long day. I'm gonna write it off to that. And this is a slick fiber. And I probably could put the twist in a little bit faster, but I'm gonna leave it as is, because you know what? it's good for beginners especially to see that this happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat it out, and I'm going to tie a little knot in my lead, and I am going to wrap it. We're going to cheat it. So I tied a knot in my lead. I'm making a little hole. I'm going to put some of my roving through, pull it through a little bit, and give myself some grace after a long day. So that is a lot of fiber right there. If that doesn't stay, I don't know, you all. Okay, here we are. And so this is wool that this is a blend I used to spin into yarn. I used to make a 3-ply DK-ish weight out of it, and that would have been spun, it would have been a semi-worsted yarn, because that's what I used to spin when I had a commercial spinner. So I like this fiber. Well, you know, it's going to be slightly different lengths because of the Romney, the alpaca, and silk, right? They're all, I try to aim for similar staple lengths when I'm blending fibers so that drafting is a little bit smoother, but it doesn't always happen. So short forward just gives me a little more control over getting kind of a nice even yarn on those semi-different staple lengths. And also I just like, Alice, I hope that's on the video. You're fine. I know. Here's Elsie Mae. So anyway, I like this to have a nice amount of twist on it. I could spin it, you know, this is really, really lovely spun woolen with a lighter twist. I've done it. Basically, I have spun this in every shape or form. You know what, the other thing that's throwing me off is I have a woolly winder. And I know a lot of people love woolly winders. I'm going to be honest. I don't, and it's not the woolly winder itself, not the brand. It's just, you know, I guess I don't mind moving the fiber along the bobbin manually. So anyway, that was not against woolly winder. That was just my own personal automatic versus manual. Okay, we're back at it. So I'm going to stop and let you see, and it's time for a little soapboxing. And this one, it's been a little rough. It's been rough this past week here in the US, hasn't it? Okay, let me show you what this looks like, and then we'll soapbox a little bit here. Okay, when I took you off, I tried to drop you. So here we are, you can see it there. And it's gonna be different throughout, right? Because, of course, there's green. It's a woolly winder, right? So you don't get as good of a look at how it's gonna be, but you can see how fun that's gonna be, like a tweedy effect to it, and then plied up. And then if you dyed it, it's gonna be lovely. So if you spun it lighter, oh, I don't think Elsie was in that because I was too far away, but anyway, if you spun it into a fluffier yarn than that, that would be lovely also. Okay, we're gonna see if I can get in frame. I think we'll have to pull back a little bit so everybody's here, but what a lovely evening out it is. Okay, we'll see if they behave. Maybe Elsie Mae will. She was chasing her tail, which was cute. But I don't love her to do it very long. Okay, so soapboxing this week. Remember, I told you I look a little crazy, so just don't look at me too much. Maybe just look at my hands while I spin. So the past week has been rough in this country, right? It's been rough. I'm not going to dive into that, everything that happened last week, because Lord knows our media has covered it to the extreme. What I will say is it was rough. I have a lot of empathy. I think if you know me or you've watched this enough, I have so much empathy, and I do believe that you don't run out of empathy. But I will say that last week I was tested. Apparently our country right now, it's hard. It's hard, and it truly was a divisive moment, and I don't know. I decided not to dive into that because it's been dove into just a lot. But I will say this. There's definitely a backlash against basically anybody who is not white and wealthy at this point. I mean, that's what it comes down to in our country right now, right? There is a movement by the incredibly wealthy and the incredibly white male to just get more. right? To get more power, to get more money. I've talked about this before, and that it's not us versus, it's not you versus me so much, right? It's us, meaning basically the other, 98% of this country versus them. And I've just talked about, and I will just like keep on preaching it, that one way to fight back, besides messaging our politicians, which we need to be doing hard, because let's face it, the Democratic Party is such a mess. It's just disheartening to watch as so many things fall apart in our country, and to watch the Democratic Party just not be able to get it together to fight back. It is rough, right? It gives you less hope. One of the, besides voicing our opinions in via emails, letters, however it is that you can get your voice out there, where we put our money, right? Where we put our money. And in yet another move against women is Costco. And I would love for somebody to send me something that shows me that Costco has said otherwise, because I, for the life of me, cannot find anything that says otherwise. That Costco has not been, I will say, they have not been providing oh my gosh, I'm not going to say it. The abortion pill. They have not been providing mifepristone. We're going to say it like that, okay? They haven't been offering that through their pharmacy, and they just came out and said they will not be offering that, right? Last month, they will not be offering that because of a low demand, which I don't buy for a single second, because I'm a woman. I know a lot of women. I have been a younger woman. I mean, we just all know that that is BS, and that why would any other pharmacy be carrying it if there was no money in it? I mean, basically, right? This is what all these big corporations are about. And just like any other thing on the Costco shelf, if there's lower demand for it, then don't stock as much in your pharmacy. But let's face it, that's not what it's about. It's another just take down of women's rights, or those that are able to bear children or become impregnated. It's just another right being taken away from us. There's just no other way to see it, because I think there is a demand for it. I'm pretty sure there's a demand for it. Costco's just making an excuse. And it's such a bummer, because I was so proud of Costco when they stood up and said they were going to keep their DEI in place. I was so proud and thought, yes, I can shop at Costco. And guess what? Until somebody can send me something saying that Costco has stated otherwise, I've looked for press releases from Costco, everything I could possibly find, nothing. Basically, all I find is that they respond by saying, we haven't carried it and we're going to continue not to carry it because of low demand. Yet CVS and other pharmacies are willing to carry it. It's a widely prescribed drug, and it's just infuriating, and it's just another attack. It's just another attack. So, write to Costco. If you are a Costco member, write to them and say, this is what I'm seeing. Unless I see otherwise, I'll be canceling my membership. And yes, it's starting to feel like there's not going to be any place to shop other than small businesses, which, you know, if you can afford to do that, I strongly urge you to. It's rough, you all. It's rough. And I was emailing with my friend Linda. Hi, Linda. I hope you're watching Fiber, Linda. And she was like, let's, you know, like just not, she's upset and angry and feeling all the feelings, but was trying to focus energy on what can we do, right? Because we feel so disenfranchised, we feel so helpless. So write to Costco, say what you need to say, and then decide if you can to no longer be a member of Costco. And it is a bummer, but there's other places. And you know what? Let's face it, most of us don't need that much food. Some people do. And if it's not in your world, if it's not in your, if your budget is Costco allowed, then I totally get it. But if you can, I say this with everything, if you can, if it works into your lifestyle, consider speaking up to them and, again, deciding where you spend your money. So there's this soapbox for this. I wish I could say it. It's been a long day, you all. I'm not even You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Thank you all so much. Look at, I only have a tiny bit. I did pretty good, I feel like, at spinning that time. Let me show you one last time before we peace out, because you can actually see a little bit better what this color is. There it is. And that silk is really going to add some extra shine to that. Okay, everyone, until next week. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, you can subscribe to my newsletter there's links in the show notes. You can join the Ewethful Patreon community. There's so many ways that you can support. You can speak up. You can support others that are speaking up in the comments, and keep fighting the good fight. Until next week, stay healthy. I know it's hard right now. It's hard. I'm hearing a lot of stories about it's hard to get a COVID vaccine, even if you are 65 plus and even if you live in Oregon. So keep fighting. Stay healthy, everybody. Be kind to your neighbor, right? It's not us versus us. We got to work together. And so you don't know what your neighbor has been through, and just keep the empathy going and keep the conversation going. And make so many pretty things. Until I see you next week. Thank you so much for watching and staying through this long. I appreciate you all.